I'm a bit late with this one. You know, normally I'm zooming out with the vid and release. This time I needed a bit more time to research and check all the changes and see how they affect certain aspects of the game or matchups or the PvP in general or the survival in general. Yeah, I think we'll just go over it one by one, and I'll try to keep it as structured as possible for your sanity and mine, and let's get into it. Alright, so the first one I want to get into is Carno. Carno no longer needs stamina to ram, right? So Carno cannot charge forever, even to the point of chaining multiple rams together. This means that it does not need stamina to fight anymore, it just needs stamina to run. There is no downside to using the ram, in fact it slightly increases your speed while doing so. Mobility is bad, but it seems the hitbox might have been changed as the desync from rams seem to have gotten a lot worse. As for the Raptor versus Carno matchup, on a good Carno you basically will not get a turn. You dodge the ram and then find yourself unable to do anything right after. The Carno is faster, sets the pace, you know, and another problem is the ram hitbox being immune to pounce altogether. So that means that if you try to pounce a Carno that is using ram, it is just impossible. Because the pounce cannot interact with the ram hitbox, you will just phase through the body and not latch on even if you hit it. You can grapple a Carno with 2 Raptors now, so that's an improvement. We needed 3 in the past. But as soon as one Raptor gets on, the Carno can just hold down his charge button and then is immune to being grappled because the other one cannot get on. That said, if you do get it working and you do the bleed variation to about 20% stamina, you can easily bleed out a Carno. So you can kill it, but you would have to ambush it. Maybe that's what Dev want us to be, like ambush predators now or something, instead of running around killing shit. Balance suggestions I got for the Carno is, first of all, allow the hitbox of the ram to be pounced from the flanks and the rear. It would allow fair play and for a Raptor to actually fight back to some degree. It will still die to it, but it can do something and it could have some skillful plays on its end, instead of just being denied fully. Another balance suggestion I would say is a stamina introduction, but in a different format. Like keep ramming free, because lowering your head does not justify it costing stamina, but make the Carno lose stamina on impact depending on how much weight it ran into. This way they have their freedom of charging and chaining forever, but impacts and hits would make them lose stamina, meaning they have to coordinate to some extent on where they want their hits to go. I'd also say revert Carno back to the way it was when Horde Test went live on day 1. That thing was amazing, but then introduce those balance changes that I just mentioned as well. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. The Bile Monster, eh? Let's talk about Cera. Cera had some love in the Bile department. You can make targets vomit with a single bite. This of course is incredibly useful if you are a Cera and actually playing a corpse bully as intended, as anyone opposing you would quickly be met with a loss of their diets for simply challenging you, putting them in an immediate state of having to survive with the loss of food, water and diets. Your stamina is pretty good. You can marathon hunt, as I would like to call it, where you simply just outlast your target. Its incredible scent range also makes it an excellent tracker if you manage to obtain your prey's tracks before it disappeared on you. In combination with its stamina pool being good, it's an excellent deterrence hunter, where it just simply outstamps the prey item. For the Raptor Cera matchup, I think you're gonna need 3 Raptors now, because we did some testing and it is possible to ambush and grapple it. You just can't kill it. You will run out of stamina before it dies. You need a third member to bite the head, and then you want to be doing the damage bounce. Wow. So you want to make sure you're holding left mouse button and you see the animation change, because it's a bit wonky and not responsive, so you have to make sure you're doing it. Then have a third member bite the head, single bite will make you vomit, so it's also sound advice to just avoid them entirely and ignore them or flee from them whenever they want to fight you. So kind of boils down to you either want to kill it really badly and have three, or you just don't entertain it and move on with your life and let them get bored. If you pick the latter, make sure you disengage far, stay on elevated terrain or a rock. You might even have the safe luck of being camped. Cause you don't want to die, you don't want to lose diets, and these guys are persistent. Pouncing a Cera with the bleed pounce seems to be pretty effective. Also because, body buff might fortify how much damage they take, but the bleed is just, it calms. So bleed is always the way to go with Ceras. Also, after you vomit, you can just dogfight it all you like, because you're immune for the next 25 seconds and you can get some cheesy hits in on the head, if there's an alt biter involved, yeah. But that's that. The balance suggestions I got. Ball being strong is okay. I kinda understand the angle of juvie Ceras having nothing else going for them. Like, they were hamburgers with legs. Now the hamburger bites you and you're suddenly not hungry anymore because you're puking. But I would strongly suggest that it gets changed from insta-puking to simply obtaining the vomit sickness itself, because that would let you vomit at a random moment. This would prevent the dog biting that Ceras do after they land a bite, because the forced animation lock makes all of them just jump on the target and they all bite it together because you're stuck there just on the floor, And if the prey manages to get away with the vomit sickness and then suddenly vomits, you'd be able to pick that up on your radar, actually giving a use to the mechanic that's currently not being used, really. You'd be able to smell the vomit. And then I would even upgrade it and say like, hey, if you use scent on the vomit itself, like you walk to the spot where it vomited, you smell the vomit, then you could obtain its tracks as an alternative way of obtaining tracks. This would feel much more balanced and it would give people a chance to fight with it. They will still vomit and get punished, but being animal locked and face tanked real quick feels very basic and also very cheap to me. You can do better, guys. The Dilo hallucinations, the changes to Dilo. Now Dilo seems to actually have working clones. And what they did is they changed the clones from spawning in your radius and then homing in on you to just spawning just dead ass right on top of you. And they instantly just deal their dose of damage. It also seems to be possible to have multiple Dilos envenom you and have all of them using clones on you. Because I was bombarded by them in my Cera video, the Bow monster. You are fast enough to chase down a Carno, according to what Napan told me. Because he got chased down by a bunch of them. Your bite speed is off the charts, 3 bites 2 seconds. You're twice as heavy as a raptor. It makes you just more bulky, and with the correct mutations, hypoglacial, you can take some damage easily and trade for those lovely purple hits you guys all love. The mobility and speed seems unchanged. The Dilo seems to be fully functional. I heard a rumor about the water still working miracles and stopping them, the clones, but I haven't seen it yet. So far they've just been spawning on top of me. The Raptor Dilo matchup, it's horrible. You cannot inflict damage as fast as a Dilo. It can bite 3 times in the times you can bite once. And you will have to duck and weave a lot and even miss out on comboing your own hits due to your own snail-like bite speed. Either way, clones can no longer be dodged. Their bite speed enables a high chance for you to get bit in the wrong place, and one clone takes 14% of your HP. So if you get bit by 3 of them, you retreat, you can forget it, you're dead. So, how do you go against this? Well, my best advice against being envenomated like that is just to get on high ground ASAP, and I mean ASAP, and then instantly you start safe locking. You just don't think anymore, just safe lock, start praying. Now, when you come back, you're still gonna have to face passive clones, but they can no longer send them to you, and the passive ones without Dilos around, they don't really come that frequently, so you have a chance to maybe find food, eat to heal, etc. There's a chance there. while otherwise you are just straight up dead. Currently the only way to survive this. I advise you to come back like an hour later, not a few minutes later like a dumbass, and then use that time to reflect on your life choices. For a Dilo, you're gonna want to have a 2v1 situation, so 2 Raptors versus 1 Dilo every single time. Day, night, every single time. In nighttime, I would even avoid it. And then you just hard force a grapple, while outbiting its head in between of the attempts. And in the brawl moments of the fight, you try to outbite their head, because it does a lot of damage to their head. If you manage to grapple it, you basically win. You start to hold left mouse button to do the damage bounce, and you shred them away. Considering the balance suggestions, I kind of think it's finally working. It's not like they gave it something OP, no, they just fixed something that has been broken for a long ass time. That said though, I do think there are things that could use changes. One of these changes would be a double-edged sword, but I kinda like it, so I'm gonna suggest it anyway. That is, make the damage that a clone does percentage based. That way it gets kinda toned down against smaller things, and actually improved against bigger things, because Venom is Venom, you know? And then take like 4% HP damage per clone on whatever you're fighting right across the board. Low-key a buff in disguise of a nerf, but yeah, I like it. I would also reduce the bite speed on a Dilo from being able to do like 3 bites in 2 seconds to 2 bites in 2 seconds, just a bite a second. This would create very difficult intervals for the Omni or whatever it's fighting that are barely possible to hit, but they can be hit. It is within the realm of potentially possible. Skill check is there. And if you fail, you just get Clone Wars. And you lose. Something else that was changed, bucking. Bucking still takes stamina, so the rumor that it takes absolutely nothing is wrong. However, there is one change that just feels very incomplete to me. It's like they only put half of the mechanic. It's like when a target gets bounced, presses E, the Raptor will fall off, guaranteed. Okay? Every single time, guaranteed. But there is no button for the Raptor to brace. And to stay on in an attempt to drain a portion of its stamina while sacrificing all of its own, And this comes in pair with another problem. You do get bucked off, you 100% dismount directly on top of your target. Now I won't have to explain hopefully what that means on a Cera with bow, Carno outbite, a Tenno kick, a stego swing, and so on. It just means you're done. You're gonna die. So there's a big flaw in the mechanic, and bucking itself throwing things off. I do agree with that. I just feel they forgot the other half of the equation, where the Raptor can brace to stay on while doing minimum to no damage at all. It's just like a stamina trade at that point, right? Because we want to exhaust it to set it up for actually being unable to buck us or just drain us. So yeah, that's what I have to say about bucking mainly. Finally, no longer a suicide button. In that regard, I like how bucking works, but once again I feel it's incomplete on the Raptor side of things. Raptor Pounce functionality. The Raptor changes, I honestly don't even know where to start. I left this one for last because it kind of needs its own segments. First of all, I guess I'll start with my own experience with it. Basically, I have had a terrible experience with it so far, where due to mostly muscle memory, I made a lot of mistakes, like using WASD in a pounce for no fucking reason. Letting go of right mouse button but forgetting its spacebar and you're still pinning that one teammate, stuff like that. And a few more that are simply my own issues and habits that I would have to change and adapt by, just skill issue. And that's fair. Like, I just own up to that, it is what it is. but it can also be what it could be. And some things after days of testing still seemed majorly off, and the main issue was the aforementioned lack of a brace mechanic that we did not expect, or we didn't know how to deal with it at all. We practiced with it in the horde tasks. We just used juvie raptors, juvie stegos, keep spawning to here in swamp, and then just conduct tests. We tried several pounce variations, and the juvie raptor did give some positive results, mostly on the bleed bounces, as it would just bleed out the stegos. Even if they sat down, they were just gone. But once we reached adult, we could not replicate it on targets that we found, and I feel acceleration improved a little bit after a slide, which makes dogfighting easier because you can fuck up a little whenever you zoom out. But bounce-wise, it felt like just a total disaster, and nobody knew how to handle it. The horde test went live, and we finally have access to admin servers with the latest update. So let's test it again. Let's forget about my miserable skill issue in the horde test altogether, and let's try again and hope that I'm wrong. Let's get into it. Alright. Being able to swap slots. I ran into Dogi today on Northern, and he helped me measure the stamina cost to swap the slots because I was messing around with his Carno, and it seems to be 5% each time you swap a slot. I think the ability to swap slots is incredibly useful, but 9 out of 10 times annoying as hell. Cause usually what I personally do, I don't know if you're also a victim to this, bit of muscle memory, let me know if you are, is that I hold the WASD, any of these keys, right before dismounting, in order to make sure that I am moving when I hit the ground. And 9 out of 10 times I will use 5% stamina for no reason at all, because I'm swapping a slot and then jumping off. Aside from the few times my brain was able to correct itself on the habits, I consciously made sure not to fuck it up. The incredibly useful part is simple. Like, imagine you run at the flank of a drinking or eating dinosaur. Yeah? Now right behind you, in your shadow, is your teammate, running right behind you. Omnis often travel as a unit, so that's a realistic picture to draw. So you get on, you swap slot to the back slot, for example, and then your teammate gets on to the spot you was on, where you started your bounce, and boom, grapple ambush. So in that aspect, and only in that aspect, it's incredibly useful. To dodge obstacles or trees and cheese in more pounce time, I would simply not do it, due to the following factors, like 1. Your stamina drains 5% per swap, and every drop of stamina is very precious to a raptor. Then 2, the bleed damage you would accomplish by doing so would basically not be worth the exchange, and a dismount would have been more logical if you think about your stamina versus damage done ratio. So mostly annoying, but super cool under the right conditions. Alright, the damage bounce. This variation of bounce seems to perform heavenly when you are very small. I've heard and seen full-grown Dilos die to a single juvie that did the bounce and didn't get bucked off. That definitely needs to get looked at. However, as an adult, this bounce variation seems to underperform for the trade-off in the stamina it costs. For example, you're better off biting the target in a dogfight for a better exchange of stamina versus how much damage you do, and that said, I like how we can choose now. That's definitely a pro. And this definitely does shred sub-adult dinos that can't really be pinned anymore. You know, they're barely over that threshold. You do that, you destroy them. The neutral bounce, as I like to call it. I don't even know what it's called. This variation does minimal damage, minimal bleed damage combined. And it's also the cheapest one out of all three. Neutral maze, it basically means you latch on and then you do nothing. You don't press anything, you don't hold anything, you're just on there. It seems to have a lower chance of being bucked off, so maybe this version was originally intended to be the price bounce, who knows? My advice for using this one is only to set up a grapple on a moving target. It increases your odds of staying on to the max and to conserve as much stamina that you will be very much needing when grapple activates. Do not use this variation to inflict damage or bleed on its own, however. You're just better off biting for that extra 90 seconds of bleeding and no healing, you know, while you're regaining your stam. Then we got the Bleed Pounce. This one's probably going to be the bread and butter, not gonna lie. It performs the best out of all three on bigger game and should really be used above anything that is just straight up above 1 ton in weight. The pounces are unresponsive overall, and I mean the damage pounce as well as the bleed pounce, where you have to press a few times to really make sure that you're doing it. Advice on that is to look visually for an animation change. The spin kicks, you know, the kickboy style, it still outperforms all of these, still works. Alt pouncing also still works. Glyph attack has changed a bit. Now you just let yourself fall off by the buck anim, and then you just jump yourself up in the air to be less likely to be hit. Just use it based on what you're fighting, you know, like if you're fighting a Tenno, maybe don't jump because it might send you, you know. And remember, the chance that you can be thrown off in 1 second still breaks it though. On that note, it can dismount you in 1 second, but you need to wait like 1 to 2 seconds before spacebar even works. So you're clicking it, it doesn't work, you might already have been dismounted and you might already be getting killed. So pounce at your own risk. A tip I have is to bring the 1-tap bounces back. You basically get on, do damage or bleed pounce, and jump off right away as soon as you can. Like, get on, nam, get off. This way you can keep stamina high and kinda trot it back. Grapple has finally been nerfed, something I've been asking for. But unfortunately they went the wrong way about it entirely, so we're all screwed. You can also use all 3 variations of the pounce while grappling. That is actually pretty cool, but they made a big oversight. You know, because the stamina cost and the bleed and damage pounce is now much higher. So while you're able to grapple something, you might not be able to kill it. It's just a question mark, like, will I kill it or will I fall off and die? Because you will fall off with 0 stam at the end, with a near-death prey item that is gonna have no problem entering his villain arc and ending your plotline right there and then. Like you're gone. If you grapple to like 20% stam, you'll find yourself exhausted because you cannot do anything from that point on. It allows for your prey to just walk off and survive it. So again, no success. Instead of messing with the threshold, like needing 3 omnis to grapple, they just made the stam cost heavier alternatively. I'm not really too happy about it, because you can still floor a healthy Cera or Carno with 2 Raptors and have an entire pack behind you to still cheese those kills. And if you're playing a duo, you will always come up short. And the more skillful Raptor players, they do prefer to operate alone or even in duos, so it's kind of weird, as I agree that 2 Omnis should not body a Cera or Carno like that. But I also feel that if they do ambush something and the grapple says like, yeah man, you can grapple, then it should be a kill. It's just a lot less confusion this way. Just change the threshold, guys. Also, there seems to be a huge issue with grapple at the moment. Like, you have prey grappled on the floor, then you're the first person to press spacebar and get off, right? You will simply fall on top of them, they regain full control of their dino in the same moment, and you can be killed right there and then. And the game just does not allow you to jump off while something is grappled. I've tried it with many variations of cam angles, but in the end it just did the same thing every single time consistently, where it just dropped me in the middle of the hitbox of my prey. The second person seems to be able to jump off no problem, but I suspect that is because the prey item is no longer in a grappled state, you know, it's no longer playing Magikarp. And I suspect that they forgot to code the dismount on grapple. It's just probably just a simple oversight. I don't think it's intentional. All in all, the conclusion is, unfortunately, that while Raptor is not fully dead in the water, as we can still dogfight and outnumber prey 8 to 1, you will most likely have a very miserable time playing it. You will be living off AI mostly. You will run into mostly Ceras that you don't really want to mess with due to the vomit mechanic. And you'll either get bored from killing Juvies and AI, or you will die eventually to one of these many issues Raptor has at the moment. Also, Pounce in general still to seem to prefer pinning a teammate than the prey item that is being pounced. It makes it feel very clunky as before. Fixes have been done, improvements have been done, but I feel they missed the picture by a mile or two on some of these issues.